Kris's age is widely debated within the Deltarune community, with many people having different ideas on what age Kris and the rest of their class is. But what age really is Kris? Well, to start off, we know that Kris is at least 13 years old, because of the several mentions of their entire class being teenagers within the game. In Chapter 3, Berdly reads a version of what appears to be A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens because of the iconic opening line. This book is typically taught in high school, so that brings Kris's minimum age up to 14. If you try to say that maybe Kris got held back or skipped a grade, Berdly calls Kris a number 3 in the class, meaning Kris is smart but not the smartest person, so Kris probably wasn't held back or skipped a grade. Next we have the fact that Berdly and Caddy appear to have jobs. Berdly volunteers at the library, which you could say that that's not really a job, just volunteer work, but he also mentions that he has a shift with Miss Boom, which makes it seem like he has an actual job instead of just helping her out. And Caddy is also seen working at QC's diner. Since both of these characters appear to have actual jobs, I'm going to say that they're about 16, so same thing for everybody else in the class, including Kris. Now, if Berdly is 16, that can mean 3 things about Kris's age. They're younger than Berdly by a year, so 15 years old, the same age as Berdly, 16 years old, or a year older than Berdly, so 17 years old. This age range also makes sense because Toriel mentions how Kris will be going to college soon, so a 15 or older age range would make sense. But to narrow this down even further, we have Kris's apparent knowledge of how to drive. In Chapter 2, Kris is able to drive the limo, implying that they have knowledge of driving. If you try to say, well, really we were the ones driving the car since we controlled Kris, all we did was steer the car. Kris had to push down the gas pedal and do everything else. We also know that Kris can do some things on their own even while the soul is in, so us only steering the car and Kris doing the rest would make sense. Since it doesn't appear that Kris can actually drive in the light world, and there's no references to Kris having a driver's license, I'm going to say that Kris is about 15 years old, probably late 15. Old enough to know how to drive, but not old enough to actually do it in the light world. So yes, my final guess at Kris's age is about 15 years old. Maybe early 16, but I'm just going to say 15. The one problem with this is how Kris's whole class appears to stay in Alphys' room instead of moving to different ones. Or maybe that's just how schools work in Deltarune. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Deltarune content.